Hey guys, Sunday, October the 20th of 2024. It's that time to check out Bitcoin under the hood using cycles, seasonality, and other methods. So without any further delay, let's get into it. You guys have been following me for a while. You probably remember around April or maybe a little earlier, I was contemplating in investing and expanding my portfolio on Bitcoin. And I was thinking about, dipping my toes in there, getting my ears wet, kind of getting into the crypto world. But then I decided to look at under the hood and look at the cycles and look at other techniques that I use. And I noticed that we were pretty much at a top when all this back and forth about the halving. We're going to go to the moon. We're going to hit 100,000. And halving was around April 19 of 2024. Not with a bang, but a little whimper. Looking at spectrum cycle analysis using our data from at least you could say 2014 on a daily chart. This is where we're at right here. Interesting. You could probably say that maybe this is a bull flag in the works. Possible. It looks like it wants to break out of a trend line. It looks like it's developing right here. And if it does, could probably test that 74. April 19 was somewhere around right here. I can't remember. Maybe it was somewhere in this ballpark where I was kind of thinking that I wanted to get in because everybody was saying that this is going to push Bitcoin higher. And April 19 is when that halving happened. And I was like, let me look. Let me inspect Bitcoin and see if everything is lining up. And once I did that, the spectrum cycle that I used on the daily chart was the 280. And lo and behold, we were at a top on Bitcoin, a peak around April 9th. You can look at my YouTube video. You can find the Bitcoin videos. I made a list of all the ones, Cardano and all. I think I even put Dogecoin in there. Just some money that I made from the uranium sector, and speculate on crypto. And you can see that the cycles were going down on the daily, and they bottomed around, you could say, August 29th, around there. And you can see that somewhere around here, that was the last push. And then from there, it skyrocketed all the way back. If you do that trend line, that's where we're at right there. What is giving Bitcoin momentum, and it's positive on the daily chart, is that the daily cycles are positive. Not necessarily it's going to follow it, but if there's any catalyst, it's positive because the cycles are up on the daily chart. You may ask, when do they peak? Well, you can say maybe somewhere around January 15 of 2025, pretty much next year. And this could fluctuate because these are dynamic cycles, so they move around, they shift, they go back and forth. Not by much, but somewhere in this ballpark, using a bell curve analysis, somewhere around there, could probably peak, and then the cycle goes down. Now you may ask, why did you start with the daily? Aha. I got you. I wanted to start something positive on the video so you could kind of get, oh yeah, we're going to go to the moon. The good news is that the daily cycles are up, and that's positive. It has potential to break and maybe kiss 74,000 and maybe even go higher. Maybe go to 84,000 because the daily cycles are up. Now let's look at the weekly cycles and see if the weekly cycles are up also with the daily cycle. Okay, so this is the weekly chart. You can see we don't really have a lot of data on Bitcoin. They say that it started trading maybe somewhere around 2010, and we started getting data from it. But it was born somewhere around 2009. But Nakamochi, you know, I just butchered his name. I just heard it on Google and already forgot how to pronounce it, so forgive me. But you know the name if you're into Bitcoin. That gentleman or that person was the one that created this system or this currency, whatever you want to call it. This new system that they want to implement. And from there, you know, the whole history, 2000, you know, whatever the crash that we had, 2007, 2008, and then this comes up and everybody's into it. Well, it started with a small group, and then this is where we're at now. So pretty much roughly 15 years, and this is where we're at now. Kind of teasering back and forth. Are they going to prove it? You know, they're proving ETFs. It's like little stages. But slowly but surely, I believe, honestly, this is going to be the world currency. I don't know Bitcoin per se, but something like that. Where everything is going to be digital. We're going to be in a cashless society. And there's going to be some interesting times that we're going to be living in. So looking at the weekly chart, there's one cycle here that is the 179. What do we have here? What's April? April 19 was somewhere around here, but it peaked around May 19. This cycle is down. But remember that I started out with the daily cycles, and the daily cycles up. Just keep in mind that the weekly cycles have more importance compared to the daily cycles. So while the daily cycle is up, it doesn't mean that we're going to be crashing going down. Always remember, we could always be going sideways, but not taking the good momentum that we had when our weekly cycle was up. Our weekly cycle was up around May, hit a trough around May 15 of 2023. The low came in somewhere around November of 2022. And we just kind of started grinding higher from there. And then the weekly cycle turned. It looks like we kind of went sideways here and then followed the cycles. They're interesting, huh? Now this weekly cycle is down and it hits a trough around October of 2025, give or take, maybe September, maybe November low. But this is where then the weekly cycles are up. So the daily cycles are up, weekly cycles are down. My personal opinion is we probably won't get a lot of upside, like a movement like this, but we are in an up cycle on the daily. So I'll give it that. So maybe we continue grinding higher, maybe double top. I don't know. On January of 2025, that's where the daily cycle peaks. And maybe, you know, go back down and go sideways again. But probably very limited upside. Even if, to be realistic, maybe even kiss this high and maybe push higher, get to 84,000. But that's pretty much what I'm kind of looking at. And maybe sideways up from there, or maybe sideways from 84,000. Once the daily cycle goes down, it maybe just kind of goes sideways, or maybe, you know, go lower. I don't know. But keep that in mind that this is what the spectrum cycle analysis is saying. It's not perfect. You were probably hoping that maybe we were here over here on the weekly. But the fact of the matter is that it's not, and that this cycle is down. And you already know that, and know that the daily cycle is up. Looking at seasonality, percent of month in which Bitcoin closed higher than it opened from 2020 to 2024. Unfortunately, Bitcoin is a baby stock. We don't really have enough data. So a lot of people, maybe, I don't know, people that have more experience trading and love a lot of data will be like, ooh, I can't trade Bitcoin because there's really not enough information to backtest, and it's just not enough data. Pretty much, I'll just leave it at that. So just keep that in mind. We don't really have a lot of data, so it's a baby and it's starting, only 15 years old, give or take. So using the 5-year, just the 5-year by itself, what do you notice? October is very strong. It's the strongest pretty much out of all of them. And then November, December, pretty flat, 50%. You can see that in the price action that we have right now, bunting heads on a trend line. We go straight into 10 years. You can see that October and February are strong. So it kind of tells you that maybe October, kind of a little bump, a little above the 50% halfway point, but maybe kind of pulls in. And then February is strong. And then it's kind of like chop between March and July. And you have noticed that August is weak. Let me see what August looks like within a 5-year. Well, my mouse is weird today. Actually, no, then June is the weakest. So June and August, between 5 and 10 years, are the weakest. And unfortunately, I can't get to 15, but this is max. 11 years, 2014 of the data from this system. You can see that August is still the weakest, and February and October are the strongest, and then it kind of sidesteps lower. The Members of Traders Report, it's a very interesting chart, I have to say. I am expanding it all the way out to 2018, maxed. And this is the data I have. You can see that we go up, we go down, we go up, we go down sideways, and we go up. And this is where you're at right here. If we put retail, you can see that retail pretty much follows it. And then somewhere around here, retail goes short while Bitcoin goes up, comes down, it goes up, then retail really goes long here, and they go long, they always get it wrong. Somewhere around the peak, and then it comes down, it goes down with it, goes sideways here. You can see that from September of 2023, it goes up, and you can see that retail has just been going sideways, even lower, which makes sense. It goes lower here. And now that Bitcoin is going up, you can see that retail is kind of not participating, which is interesting. And then large speculators, you can see from data that we have here, sideways, large speculators are just short, and then it goes up. Large speculators go up, it goes down, large speculators are still going up, it goes up, and then somewhere around where it hits the peak, large speculators just start dumping. Interesting. Like did they know we were going to hit a peak there? I don't know, very interesting. And then as Bitcoin is coming down, they're still accumulating. They're not even getting rid of it. And somewhere around here, it just kind of goes sideways to lower. Bitcoin goes sideways, and large speculators just kind of sideways to lower. And then Bitcoin from 2023 is kind of grinding higher. And you can see that large speculators are just back and forth erratic. This is their highest accumulation, which is strange that they didn't do it here. And then from September of 18, they just start selling. They go going short while Bitcoin is going higher. This is where your 74,000 is, somewhere around there. And they're just unwinding and then just kind of sideways. And now with this up move here, they are selling. It's a very interesting dynamic on the commitments of trader report on Bitcoin. And for commercial, which normally they hedge, they typically go against the instrument. You can see that it's kind of like following it here. You can see they hit a peak, they go short, they are following Bitcoin, they kind of sideways here, back and forth. Look at this big drop. And then commercial starts accumulating, following Bitcoin. Hear that? I just kind of wanted to catch up on the history on what the commitments of trader maneuvers and dances with the actual price of Bitcoin, and see what commercial, large speculators, and retail, normally look like, what they've been doing. Very, very strange. I've never noticed. I have never seen anything like this. Maybe this instrument is a little different than what I'm normally used to. But let's focus on where we at right now. It's just 74,000 around there, and this is where we at right now. Looking at large speculators, it looks like they're short. And going to commercial, they're long. They're buying Bitcoin as it goes higher. And looking at retail, they're not buying it. They're just kind of sideways to lower. And we started going up, what is this, September or the 9th? This leg up. And it's just kind of there compared to large speculators. They're shorting it from September. This move going up, they're shorting it down. And commercial are following Bitcoin. Very interesting. It's like large speculators are not believing this. And we know that the daily cycles are up, and we could kind of tell that October is very bullish. So is there a surprise? I don't know. Interesting. So this is our Elliott wave chart, and a couple of things here to observe. Is this green line right here. This is our seasonality chart or indicator. And you can see that in October, from the 1st, typically it's very bullish, and we've confirmed that with other formats indicating that October is strong. What is it? This is January. This indicator is indicating that it's still strong all the way to February, which I don't know. We'll see. But definitely October is strong, going up. And then November and December are kind of flat. But we'll see. I don't know why it's continuing, but we'll confirm that once we go into the master chart. But I just want you to observe that that's my seasonality. We above the moving average. The Stokes, look at the Stokes. They typically, once they start doing that, it's kind of giving you where there's a possible turning point coming. And you can see that it hits it, indicator starts saying, yep, you're in that zone. And it kind of goes sideways. And it's just a lot of back and forth until that one where the crossover happens, and then it just continues. And interesting is that it did it here, and we were going back and forth, and then eventually it came down. But, it's in a sideways pattern. So we're building it up now again here. In regards to time clusters, you got the 18, the 21st that are very important for possible turning points. However, we know the weekly is down and the daily is up. So this might not play out in the sense that it turning here. May want to go and kiss this, but we'll see. This is going to be an important week. Just kind of showing you what I'm seeing. And you can see here, these are some selling levels. And this is a buying level if it gets to 69.6008. If we could close above there, there's a high probability that it might get to 74. 73, 74-ish around there. Using our Elliott wave count. Let's not do that yet. Let's put the Elliott wave count. It's saying that this high around March the 13th is a wave 3, and we just made a wave 4. And projection wave 5, target would be 79.038, and I think this one even higher. Let's see if I can get that. Yep. So you got a 79.038 and also wave 5 of 97.69.5. Pretty much close to 100,000. So this is your second target. This is your first target. Obviously, this is your first target, second target, third target. So it is, and this could be possible. Like I said, the daily cycles are up into January. And somewhere around January, which is somewhere around this ballpark, it starts turning down. So all of this is possible while the weekly cycles are down. And then if we ever get up here, then it's going to catch up to the weekly cycle, and then there's going to be a down cycle, and then you have to wait for another up cycle on the daily to kind of get the other swing to the upside. So that's the logic behind the spectrum cycle analysis. So this is all making sense, being that this is a wave 3 and that we are in a wave 4 here, going into a wave 5. Possible targets, not including the Elliott wave, will be this range between 82 and 84, 84,716, 82, 18.1, and the sweet spot would be 83,601 right there. Timing wise, you want to keep an eye on 12.2 and also 2.13. And now let's say this trend line is just massive resistance. You're at the top of the linear regression channel, which is kind of risky to buy, but you know, it's kind of those things like, all right, if you want to buy it here, it could break out and it's just going to push higher. Ideally, you probably wanted to get in here and here to be happy here. But if you're waiting for a pullback, you would probably either wait in the midpoint or here to get in again. But everything looks like it wants to go higher. But we have to wait to see price action confirm it to eventually at least kiss 74, 73. But worst case scenario, if this is a dead cat bounce and they want to slam it to the downside, and this is more for the bears, these would be your target. So obviously the trend line from this low here, and if it cracks it a little bit, anywhere between 50, 74 all the way to 49. So this would be your first target. I'm not worried about this, but this would be your first target in conjunction with this trend line. But I don't think this is going to play out, but you never know. I'm kind of leaning more. It's probably want to go higher and maybe get either around here or around here. Let's go to the master chart to see what we could get out of there. Okay, so this is the last chart of this video. This is what I call the master chart. This is where I kind of dive in depth into a Bitcoin And I'm just going to focus. I'm not using the Gann fans or anything like that. I had to create that on another chart. I just want to focus on just the natural cycles, harmonics, composite cycle, and similarities, and maybe the annual quant algorithm. So I'm going to start off with the similarity, what they call they probably currently call analog. So with the analog, I'm using no filter, and maybe using the first three, or maybe the first two, or maybe just one. Just looking for similarities from the price action that we have here, where we at now. And it picked up price action from the year of 2020. And with no filter, you know, we got a low here. The low came in here, and it's kind of showing that maybe a possible turning point around November the 12th, and then it goes down, and then it kind of rallies up. So we'll monitor that to see how that goes. Let's look at 2021. This one looks a little more closer, maybe a pullback, and then a pop into a December, and then a pullback down. Let's put a filter for the best similar year. And the first one is picking is 2013, which is pretty much chop fest, and then it kind of rallies into December. Can that play out? I don't know. It's interesting. The 2021 price action, but it's picking it from 1018, so it kind of looks a little similar, but we're here, so if it's going to follow this, just keep an eye out for November. Pretty much November, that first, second week rhymes with the one that didn't have a filter, then it pulls back. And this is what typically I guess it does into, or it could probably do into January. I think that's it for this chart. Just observing some things. Using the spectrum cycle analyzer with the setting of RPO, you see that the red one hit a peak here, and we peaked here. So I'm using 3 cycles, the most important cycles that I've noticed. Got the red, the green, and the blue. The blue is bottoming out here, and it's going up. The green bottomed out here. Now it's hitting a peak where we at, and the red one is bottoming out somewhere around February and January, where it's typically, from what I see, sometimes weak, and then January, especially February, starts, grinding higher. So I created a composite, which is a composite of all these 3 cycles. Let's see if I could put that up here so it looks clearer. So this is what it's indicating, that maybe we have a turn here, and then, February will rally. So we'll see. Nothing written in stone. I'm saying that this is going to happen. I'm just looking at what other data points are showing using different systems. So we know that our weekly is down. Our weekly cycles are down. Our daily, using the spectrum analyzer, is going up, and this one, using the same technique, spectrum analyzer, focusing on 3 cycles, creating a composite, shows that maybe we could go down. So nothing is all in the same direction. They're just kind of going inverse from each other. One is going down, a daily cycle is going up, one is going down. So they're opposite right here. So let's see which one is the one that's going to pretty much play out. And that's all going to depend on price action. If we could take out that, we could probably go higher in the Elliott wave chart of possible targets to the upside. Using harmonics from this spectrum cycle analyzer, you can see that there was an important pivot here. And it looks like this was like an explosion to the upside. And we are right now here where we made this low, very close. And then it just kind of sideways grinding higher to the future. This was a very important point, using the harmonic bucks within these 3 cycles. So looking at this, maybe it's bullish, but it's just going to take a while to get there. We know the daily cycle peaks around on the spectrum cycle on the January of 2025. So it'll be interesting to see how this is all going to unfold. And lastly, let's look at, I'm not going to go into here because I didn't look into that. Let's look at our natural cycles. And I ran algorithm analyzing all the data from Bitcoin to see where's the best place to trade. And it's indicating all, I guess from, you could say, from this peak in March, these are good times to sell into it, wherever these dates were, or the points. And starting from October 25th, good opportunity to go long until January 9th. And you got to sell. So all of these are positive. So meaning that maybe if the algorithm, the quant is right, and on the natural gas one, it didn't work out. So I'm curious to see if this one is going to work out on the Bitcoin. Especially with the data that we have, which is not much. So I don't know if this is going to be reliable, but you know, we had a lot of data on natural gas and they got it wrong too. So we'll see if this is going to play out. But I just wanted to show you, looking at our annual cycle, you can see that we hit a bottom here, and now we could maybe narrow in closer so we kind of see. So our annual cycle is up until pretty much the first week of November, and then from December, you get this pullback. Yep. Using our fast annual, which is 3 years worth of data, you can see that we peak around October the 29th, the last week, then it pulls back, and then sideways, and then it goes up. This is our mid-annual. This is pretty much 6 years worth of data on Bitcoin, and you can see that it peaks somewhere around November the 28th, and then it kind of turns. And lastly, our annual decimal, which is the annual and the 10-year together, hit a trough around here, and then it hits a peak around November the 28th. It pulls back into December, and then it skyrockets into January the 9th. Which kind of lines up with why this is selling here. So all bullish until January, which is interesting. So if you put all these together, you kind of get an idea of what could potentially be playing out. But all these are kind of bullish, and then it kind of gets a little choppy and mixed up here. Lastly, I wanted to show you is one of Gann's technique is to look at 20 years ago and 10 and 20 years ago, but we don't have that much data. So I'm going to look at 3 years ago and see what has happened 3 years ago. And so far, looking at 3 years in the past, you can see that we hit a peak. And you may ask, why did I use 3 years? Well, Gann said to look at, in regards to his course, look at 10, 20, and he said that 5 years is a cycle to watch, and also the minor cycle is a 3 year. And the smallest cycle, he said, was the 1 year. So it goes from 1 to 3 to 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, and 60. So that's why I'm using 3 years. And you can see that it peaks up around November the 8th. So it's pretty much the election. So it's a lot of, I don't know if it's going to relate to that, but interesting to see that this is what it's indicating, this technique. So I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully this was a lot of good information for you to decide what you want to do. I think the most important take from this whole video is, if we could take out 74, 73. Looking at the pretty much the Elliott wave chart, those are pretty decent targets if we were going to push higher into November and December and maybe January. But just keep in mind that the weekly cycles are down, the daily cycles are up, and the dailies top out around January. So these all could be upside. And this algo is kind of confirming that. Even it's like confirming the daily cycle that just buy the dip. And once we get into January, just be cautious because it could pull back. And that's where the daily cycle on the yearly spectrum cycle analysis peaks in that ballpark. I'm going to sign out. Hope you like this video, and I'll keep you posted on my thoughts on Bitcoin.